America, my name is Osei-Frimpong. I come to you live every Thursday. I'm going to try to do more candidate interviews because I find candidates fascinating. And so I brought you a real live one today, a man by the name of Junaid Ahmed, and he's running in Illinois' 8th district. That's a little bit north of Chicago. We're going to feel him out. So I do these candidate interviews so that you can see me interview them and so that you know how to talk to candidates in a way that, well, I think secure justice for people in these United States. And I like federal candidates because you have a lot of power as a congressperson. Even if you can't get your legislation passed, apparently when Congress people call radio stations, they get put on the air. So you have a lot of power just with the microphone as a congressperson. So we're going to talk to candidate Ahmed, and we're going to see why we should or shouldn't vote for him. But so say hello to the people.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Rami.
Thank you. All right. So I'm going to assume that you've been a responsible young candidate. You filled out all of your paperwork. You have gotten the required signatures. You have a team required, excuse me, to run this campaign. And then you sent a tastefully worded email to the opposing candidate requesting a debate. And the opposing candidate has responded in a timely fashion with debate times, and you guys have a debate, and so the people can hear the ideas, right? Excuse me. So have you done all of that work?
So we have filed all the paperwork. We have filed the signatures. We needed about 400. We collected almost in the ballpark of 2,500, about 6 times more than what's needed, because we just want to be sure, and we have a very strong grassroots movement, so we've done with that. We have no, we are expecting. We're hoping for a debate with the candidate. We don't have the times and anything yet, but we should hopefully get something in time.
Good. So have you contacted the Krishnamurthy campaign?
Directly for requesting a debate? Not yet.
All right, so get on that, right? Because there's a thing with Democratic incumbents. They don't like to debate. Would you believe? Would you believe they are in the business of ducking debates? And I have a problem with that as a citizen who cares about what the people think. I want to see you on stage next to Krishnamurthy, fielding questions from someone like me, and then fielding questions from each other. And that way the citizens get to decide who they want. But would you believe, I know it's hard to imagine that some people in our Democratic Party do not cotton to that idea. They do not want the candidates to debate each other, even if it could be good for the people to make an informed decision. So I will tell you right now, I believe in forcing the debate. I think that every congressional candidate should sit for at least 3 debates. So do I have a commitment from you on to all the people who watch me on YouTube that if requested, you would sit for at least 3 debates with a candidate if you get elected on through your entire tenure? Every election cycle, you would sit for at least 3 debates.
Would love to.
You would love to. You would not be one of these people who would dodge debates.
Nope. I am for the people. I'm standing for the people. I've been fighting for the people. I've been activist for the people. There is no way I'm going to dodge a debate. I'd love to get on debate immediately if Raja Krishnamurthy accepts it.
Good. And that's his job. If he doesn't want to do it, I actually think he should not get the job. I think that should be an issue. I think forcing the debate should be an issue for the Democratic Party and in Congress in general. Look, the president has to, from time to time, give a State of the Union. It's in the Constitution. I think that congressional candidates should be mandated, almost like a subpoena, to have to sit for debates because, especially in safe districts, it's not in the primary policy in the Democratic Party, and it's not national policy that they have to sit. And I think it's a degradation of the citizens. So like, if we're going to be serious about democratic governance, I'm going to need you on the same stage as the incumbent, right? So what have been some of the challenges to running as a non-incumbent in your district?
See, first and foremost, I'll start with this. When we got into this race, what is the first thing that you would want, right? You would want to look at your voter data, and because that's who you're willing to, you're standing to represent.
Right.
Guess what? When we reached out to the party, The response we got was, sorry, we cannot share that data. I was like, I was shocked. I was shocked. Maybe the
Well, it's
media was
because you're not
lying.
running as a Democrat, right? Are you running as a Democrat?
I am running as a Democrat.
Would you believe
I am
you're running as
challenging him in the primary.
you are running as a Democrat? So you sent a tastefully worded email to your party, of which you are a member, requesting data.
Yes.
And do they know that you're a candidate?
Yes, they know I'm the candidate, but their response was, sorry, we cannot give the data to a challenger, to an incumbent. And I was like, look, and Army, I think this is very important for you to know. So why the hell am I running this race, right? Uh, I was a supporter. I was a supporter of Raja Krishnamurti when he ran the first time in 2016 when he won. I've always been an activist, fighting for social justice, fighting for Medicare for all, fighting for all the good things, right? And especially 2013, 2014, when we were talking about why I had questions in my mind. I traveled quite a bit for work, and I realized that we're the only developed nation on the planet that does not give healthcare as a basic human right. The college education debt, when I was, talking to, this is an interesting story, maybe too early, but I'll share this with you. I was talking to a young man, about 24, 25, 23 maybe, who was at work in Germany. And I was trying to understand, what does his student debt look like, right? I mean, for us, once you're out of college, the first thing you deal with is student debt. And it took me a minute or two to get the question through to him. And then I started questioning all of these things as to why do we have to deal with all these things? And fast forward to 2015, I hear this senator from Vermont talking about all these good things. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to support this man. And I was a volunteer in his campaign. And then at the same time, Raja Krishnamurti popped onto the screen. I mean, he had run before multiple times. I have been supporting him. I liked the guy at the time. I still do, but I like the guy. And I was like, you know what? He's standing up for all the right things. But fast forward a couple of years, to your point, he started dodging questions. He stopped having town hall meetings. And then pandemic came. He used pandemic as an excuse. Now he's starting to have those town hall meetings because now he's a challenger. I'm calling him out for all those good things. So my point here is I was a supporter for Raja Krishnamurti in 2016. I was a Democratic volunteer. I was working for the party to elect the right candidates.
Right.
And then when I wanted to start, they refused to give the data to me.
Right. So the party's playing favorites, right? So the party should be supporting Democrats and they should be supporting the democratic process, right? The idea that the party's playing favorites is not exactly it. That's, you have to watch out, right? So you don't want the party elite to become a faction over and above and different from the voters, because then they use the elections as a means to legitimize their power, but the elections were always kind of false to begin with. And when I talk to this with regular people, I say that Saddam Hussein won elections too. I remember 2002, he killed his election. He won. I think he got like 99%. So the election itself is like, the vote's not magic. You need all of these other conditions. You need it to be contested, right? If you put a ballot box all over Russia right now, I bet you Putin would win, right? That doesn't mean it would be a contested election, an honest and like actually worthwhile election. So for it to be a worthwhile election, the party can't play favorites, right? It has to give you the data, and then you and Krishnamurti make your campaign and go on radio and you have your debates, and then we decide. If any of that falls, then it's not a real election. It's a sham election that's kind of masquerading an election. So like we have all of these nice left policies. Like I like a federal job guarantee. I believe in reparations for Black people, and healthcare. You have all of these nice left policies, but if you don't have the right processes, all of these policies will get killed. And we like to think that we can get the policies without the processes, but that's just not the case. So it's very important to me. I mean, one of the reasons I reached out to you is because I need you to have the opportunity to have a fair fight in this election.
Thank you.
Yeah. So what's it going to take for you to get a fair fight in this election? What do you need to have a real contested election?
See, there are a few things. We need the media coverage, right?
Okay.
I mean, it's the name recognition. I've been an activist. If you talk within the activist community, my name is out and about. But election goes beyond the activist community. Right. I need means to reach out to the voters, get in front of the voters. The best way is the media. And the media, obviously, I don't need to tell you that, they play favorites. They do not give the equal time that is needed to the challengers to an incumbent. We're not getting that at this point. But guess what? We are working at the grassroots level. They have their own ways of blocking us. We have our own ways of breaking those barriers. We are
Well,
using the grassroots to do just that.
that's great, but I also need like what's that? The local NPR station, and then the local Fox. Sometimes I have
WBZ.
WBZ.
Yeah.
Like, do they just not return your calls when you want to come in and be interviewed by the locals, or?
We have sent out our PRs to quite a few in the last. We have started sending it out. The response has been all right. I mean, I'd like to see. We're going to do more of that. To be very honest, our focus was primarily on building our grassroots, working to the
Right.
people. Now we are going to put a lot more emphasis on the media, and we'll see how the reaction looks like.
I will say that it's funny because I often it's easier to get on conservative outlets than it is to get on progressive ones in a really ridiculous way. Like, I've been canceled many times. I'm supposed to go on the local NPR station, and then I get booked, and then like a day before I always get canceled because someone gets scared. But like, I've been on the Fox one a few times, the local Fox station, and they never cancel me. They're not as scared. So there's a way in which it's easier to get on the local conservative outlet than it is the neutral outlet or whatever. And that's a problem we have to ask for, because the neutral outlet's scared about getting on the bad side of the party, right? So you have all of these media figures who have a vested interest in maintaining access, and they're scared of getting punished if they open up access, right? And that's a problem. And we need to both make an alternative media ecosystem, which I can be part of here, but also we need to actually get the mainstream media to do their job. Like Chicago Tonight should have you on, and there's no reason why Chicago Tonight shouldn't have you on.
Agree.
Lynn Sweet should be interviewing you. Yeah.
No, I appreciate the words. Everything that you're saying, 100%.
All right. So if you got on Chicago Tonight and it wasn't just you talking to me, let's talk jobs, right? Can you be free in the United States if you don't have access to a good job?
See, like I said, I have traveled so much for work,
Right.
and I'll use a couple examples, especially in the Nordic countries, right? Everybody seems to be very happy with their lives. A lot of people, they don't go through the stressful situation that we go through as a nation in America. Everybody's stressed for various reasons, but job, their work, the pressure from the boss, that pressure, that the stress is so huge within our community that needs to be addressed. We need to figure out a way how we can have a nation that is a little bit less stressful, that is a little bit more happier. When you're talking about people, I mean, what this pandemic has taught us is just working remote. Let's just take one as an example, right? I mean, for me to go to a client side, come back an hour and a half, hour 15 each way, now I'm saving those 2 hours. Simple things of working remotely. Now, I'm not suggesting every work you can do it. My sister is a physician; she can't work remote. But wherever there are opportunities, can be built on it. As a nation, are we doing everything to build that job infrastructure, right? My background is high tech era. And one thing I've done successfully in my very small, limited capacity in my small business of technology is we were able to train people and get them good paying jobs, amazingly good paying jobs. And these people did not have any background in the technology front. Now, I'm not saying technology is the only way. Healthcare is going to fall the exact same way. Plumbers are going to fall the exact same bucket. You name the technology, but because I am from that area, I'm kind of highlighting that as an example. When I could do it for tens of people over the last 1 decade, why can this nation not train the less people who have less access to these jobs? Why can't we just give me 10 people who are willing to put in the time? I guarantee you 9 out of 10, if not 10 out of 10, I'll find them good, healthy, well-paying jobs. As a nation, we must do this.
Well, I'm a little bit suspicious of the job training kind of farce, because what happens is that ends up excuse me, that ends up offloading a lot of risk onto the person,
Mm.
right? Without any guarantee of reward. So if there were a partnership, maybe mediated, excuse me, through the government about this, so that it wasn't just the employee or potential employee taking on the risk and eating the risk, and there was some sort of like, you go through this program, you will get a job at the end, then it's something I could believe in. But right now there are a lot of these job training programs that are scams, right?
Yeah.
And so like you're training people, you're asking them for money to take on the time to train them for a job that may exist on the conditions that possibly could exist. Whereas I'm pretty sure that you can't be politically free unless you're economically stable. So we need to just guarantee people a job,
Yeah.
right?
No,
So
Rami, I agree.
yeah,
When I said your people may not, if they do not have the skill set, train them and then find them a job.
right. We would train them and then find them a job. And then there used to be a thing in the United States, I hear tell, called on-the-job training, where you actually got paid while you trained, which is, I think, a healthier way to do that. I mean, we could do it through technical schools, but we could. So when we remade the economy with a great deal and the FOB subsidies and all that, we opened up the economy to subsidizing employers and owners. But we could talk about payroll subsidies in a way that could be helpful for small businesses, so that the small businesses would only have to pay like $5 or $6 an hour, but the employee would be subsidized through a government program for like up to $25 an hour. And so like businesses would get the employees they need, the employees would get the training they need, and without breaking the industry's budget. And I think I'd like to open up the conversation about payroll subsidies, because that's what they had for the pandemic in Europe, right? There are a lot of payroll subsidies that we just didn't have here.
Yeah. No, that's a great concept. I love it. I'll kind of research a bit more. But in theory, in essence, what I just heard from you,
Yeah.
look, we give billions of dollars to the top 2% just
Right.
to bail them out. If a fraction of that is used to pay the bottom 5%, 6%, 3%, 10%, whatever that number is,
Right.
and those subsidies completely change the landscape of this nation, I'm all for it. Love it.
Yeah. So like they get their workers, we make sure the workers get paid, and like I think everyone wins, except there isn't as much discretionary income for like yachts, right? So instead people are making real wages for working in the same private industries that they were working before. So what's your strategy? What's the strategy going forward for you?
The strategy to win this race?
Win this race and then govern in a way that moves us towards justice.
Absolutely. First and foremost, I have been an activist just about all my adult life. So now we're changing that activism to representation. So what that has an intrinsic, a deep-rooted value for us, wherein we are looking at people, the grassroots, the people on the ground for support. We're not looking at corporations. Every dollar that we have raised so far, we have taken $0 from corporations. And the issue that I have with the corporations around me is that, look, I own a small business. I get it. At the end of the day, their goal is to maximize the shareholder profit.
That's your job.
Their goal is not to help me as Junaid Ahmed, who is standing up for the right things, to come out and support me. Right. As much as whatever they may tell me, I know their goal is to extend their shareholder value. I respect that. Right. That's why I do not want their money. I do not want the incumbent to take their money. And that's the fundamental issue we have with them. So our strategy is that we're saying no to the corporate PAC money. We are saying yes to people, and we are standing with the people, talking to the people, and we are out and about. And we need to talk to enough people that will support us, come out and vote for us. That's our strategy to win. Once we get into the office, our strategy to govern is when we are negotiating these things, I talk about a lot about, very dear to my heart, is Medicare for all, right? I want a discussion on the table where the healthcare industry is not on the table. Pharmaceutical corporations are not on the table. When, as an incumbent, my incumbent, Raja Krishnamurti, has taken about $2 million in the last 5 years that he has been in office from corporations. How can he claim that he's fighting for me? So my fundamental philosophy there would be stand up for the people, do what is right for the people. And then people who are not going to do what is right for the people, I'm going to start talking to them, start negotiating with them. And then if they do not listen, call them out that, hey, are you representing people in your district, or are you representing corporate A, corporate B, corporate C?
Right. So there is going to be a qualitative difference between corporate marketing and a citizen speech. And Wendy Brown does actually a really nice distinction in her book, Undoing the Demos. And she says, like, look, like you said, it's the business's job to create shareholder profits. You can't, I mean, that's appropriate for their role as, corporate officials. But that's when they speak, it's not with the same concern as citizens. It's marketing. Like they have a private interest, whereas citizens, if they do their job, are supposed to be like laying down laws for the whole, not for their private interest, right? So we have to make a distinction between the speech of corporations, which is speech, but it's marketing, versus the political speech that only citizens can make because they have a quality of political judgment that they're in a social position to have, right? So it's fine for corporations to market. Just don't confuse that with political speech.
Yes,
right?
sir.
And that's going to be, I think, an interesting distinction that we could see more of, because they have an end which is different than a citizen's end. The citizen's trying to govern for the whole, and the corporation's trying to secure shareholder profit, which is their job. That's fine. Don't let that screw up the governance structure of our nation.
Yeah.
And we could do better about making that distinction, right?
Absolutely.
So you're an independent business owner, right? Did I hear you
Yes,
say
sir.
that?
Yes, sir.
Right. So that's one thing that's really bothered me about congressional races in general, is that they seem to only be available to people who are independent business owners, and or those who are like generationally wealthy, right? So, I mean, that's a problem insofar as 95% of the American people work for somebody else, right? So pretty much running a congressional campaign is a full-time, or it's a 3/4 time job.
Yeah, absolutely. And I can vouch for it. This is
It's
this
a
is so,
whole thing.
yeah.
So we need some sort of structure so that people who have a boss can also run for office.
Yes, absolutely.
And so what would that entail? Because right now you have the flexibility as a business owner to do the two jobs. But if you worked a 9 to 5, you would be functionally unable to run for Congress, which is a problem for our democracy.
Big problem for our democracy. Even in my case, right? I have a small business around me.
Right.
When I'm walking away from my business, I'm losing money every day. So yes, I do not, so to say, I may not have a 9 to 5 job, but I'm still feeling the same pinch that someone with a 9 to 5 job would do. I don't have one boss. I have 5 or 6 or 7 bosses in my clients, right? So it's I think in my case, it's equally difficult, if not more. But to your point, I cannot agree with you more that we need a process in place. We need a system in place that any citizen who wants to represent the people must be able to take on that responsibility, stand up, and be able to run a fair race. And I cannot agree with you more.
So either we need to shorten the campaign season by law.
Yes, sir.
That might work. Shorten the campaign season by law. Or we need to subsidize candidates. As soon as you become a candidate, there's some sort of subsidy. And then we want to subsidize people who to even go in if they lose, right? So now, you can get your clients back if you lose lose this position. But the question for the person who works a job, is that job going to be available for them after the end of the campaign? So we need to think about making the campaign process such that it's not so economically destabilizing.
Absolutely, and I can't agree with you more. Wherein you say that if somebody working, they need some sort of a guarantee that 6 months later they're going to be able to come back to their job once they have that time commitment be done with. Secondly, in terms of, you're talking about some sort of, publicly funded system being in place. I think some sort of a subsidy, some sort of income that is coming to that individual. I'm for it. One thing we want to be, as we draw out these new policies around me, I think one thing we need to pay attention to is that someone, a general citizen like me wants to stand up and run, right? And going against someone who has a media, CNN, MSNBC, you name it, for the last so many 5-6 years, then there's a huge disparity of name recognition. When we put out a new system in place, wherein we may be taking care of the financial needs of that individual, of the candidate, we also need to make sure that new system kind of takes into account that the disparity in the name recognition, where people will hear the message from both candidates, as long as it has the latter part of it as well. I think that's what we need for our electorate system. What's happening today, and this is no news for you, no news for our audience. We are, especially in my district, the incumbent I'm going against, Raja Krishnamurthy, I'm sure he must have come with good intention. I'm sure at the time I loved the guy and loved what he had to say. But then immediately after he got into office, he needed to think about his next election. Money, I'm not going to speak for him, but there was a lot of money. He has a war chest now of almost $12 million. His full-time job is to not represent people. His full-time job is to raise money. That includes $2 million from corporate PACs. So when you have someone who's constantly worried about his next election and the next election and the more money, and maybe, who knows what his dream is? Maybe his dream is to buy that Senate seat, make that 15 million and go buy that Senate seat. Is that what it is? I don't know. All I know is in the last 5 years in office, almost 6 years coming, he has done absolutely nothing for the people of the district. He has spent just about full-time of his money raising money.
And has he had a primary challenger?
I think the fundamental issue there, one of the key issues there, is the amount of time he spends on fundraising. You take that dynamic out, to coming back to your point, that solves a lot of problems, not just in my district, but across the nation.
Right. So has he had a primary challenger in these last 6 years?
So 2016, he won for the first time. 2018, he had no primary challenger. 2020, he had two people, but neither one of them had a campaign team. It was more of a run to make a statement.
Right. So you have to. So that's actually a good thing that I haven't talked about with other candidates. Running a campaign is actually it's in a way running a small business. So you need people with technical expertise around you, right? Yes. So, and if you don't watch out, the Democratic Party will put you on a list so that none of the people with technical expertise will want to work for you. So you're running it like you run into an expertise gap, just trying to get talent, recruiting talent. So there needs to be some sort of pooling at the party level of, political technical experts, so that every person doesn't have to train everybody on all the tech, like every candidate doesn't have to train on like every person, like on every technical aspect of running the campaign, because modern campaigns require like someone to set up your web page, someone to set up your fundraising, someone to set up the media appearances, someone to set up, like, it requires people with technical skills and differentiated technical skills.
Absolutely.
And if all of those people are scared to work for you because like they don't want to get on the other side of the party, that's a problem for like our democracy.
Rami, I was kind of, appreciating every word that you were uttering here, because I've experienced exactly just that. When we, I was thinking, me a simple, guy who had a 9-to-5 job for a decade, and then started a business for the next decade. For someone simple like me, I was like, hey, I'm going to offer someone, some sort of a business opportunity. They're going to take it. It's going to be simple. And I was shocked when I started this. I was beyond shocked when I reached out to a couple of firms who specialize in the political realm. They just declined to work with us. They just declined. And to me, that was the first time, right? And for me, a simple activist guy who wants good for the people, I was like, what is going on here? And
you're paying a fair wage.
Every word you were saying, I was like, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, no. So you're offering a fair like market wage and market and they don't want to take your money because they're scared of getting alienated from, Obama's Chicago Democrats, right? So
yes.
That's
let me add something to it.
What's up?
You're talking about at the higher company level and the technical expertise, right?
Right.
And that I experienced as soon as we launched the campaign, and we've been constantly, experiencing that. And let me tell you what happened fairly recently. These are ground level people around me, and I'm using your platform to get this word out. And
Right.
I hope the people across this nation hear this. People at the canvassing level, right? People who were strong supporters of me, and now, when I offered them a job, one of the state senators told them that if you work for Junaid against Raja Krishnamurti, you have no political career in the state of Illinois. I'm not sure if I'm quoting exactly,
But
but that's
yeah.
what they were told. And they were like, Junaid, I love you. I will continue to volunteer for you, but I cannot accept a job because of this, and this. And to me, you know what we are here to show, Rami? People like you and I are going to come together. We're going to show to the establishment that people have a voice, and we will win just by the support of the people. But everything that you're saying is so accurate, 100%.
So, I mean, you're in a safety district. So your problems with the political process are problems with the Democratic Party.
Yes, sir. It is disappointing. It is very disappointing when Democratic, party is working like Republicans, and that is a major issue. And to be very honest, I'm a little bit disappointed. But I tell you what, and on one front, I am seeing all of this pushback. On the other front, I am seeing people who are standing up and who are saying that we agree with what you're standing for. We may not be able to come out and open, and I respect that, but they're
Yeah.
supporting me, and
Right.
and I think that's where I just appreciate their situation, and then we have to move on. But I am overwhelmed by the love and support that we're getting. On one side, we're getting some pushback, but the love and support that we're getting is so much more that it overrides anything else that we're getting in this race.
Well, I am worried that. So I'm worried about a few things, right? So it seems like we need to build an alternative campaign like production infrastructure, right? So we need technical experts who can handle all aspects of the campaign. And there are like running a campaign is like congressional campaign. You need technical expertise. There are different jobs. One person can't do everything. Not only is there just so much to do, but like it takes experts in all the different facets. And you need an infrastructure that trains and develops and sustains these people in off years that's not affiliated with the company Democratic Party. So like so this is why you need like a social infrastructure, like a DSA or like a more robust progressive campaign infrastructure. Have you thought about there were some older people who won in Chicago, and I don't know about tapping into their campaign infrastructure. There's some progressive. I can't think of names right now. Don Washington's on this chat right now. Don, you can go ahead and say something if you're still watching. Um, who won in Chicago, who may actually, yeah, there are some people with training who are not scared to fight for progressives in the Chicago area. There's just not enough of them. There's not a critical mass of them. So it leaves candidates like you out in the cold in a way that's like we need to think about what it means to actually produce and generate more campaign left operatives.
Yeah, no, I'm for it if we're able to put some sort of a structure in place. But in the meantime, Arami, if you can think of some names, please reach out to me here offline. Would love to connect because you know how much we're going to need that support.
Yeah, you need support and you need expertise, right?
Yes.
So, and like this is kind of the social infrastructure that would support progressive campaigns. Now, have you talked to organized labor?
We have talked to organized labor. Here's the thing: I have been participating in union strikes, and I've been standing up for that. Not today, for a very long time. So we have those connections. At the same time, because the incumbent is also a Democrat, and on the record, he has certain things that he does, which is not totally against what the union, the labor asks for. That's a conversation that is in process. We haven't made some strong inroads just yet.
Right. So, but for that to happen, for that to be real, the union would have to host a forum where both you and Krishnamurti are on the same stage and you field questions from either rank and file members or even the elected representatives of the union. And because you don't want this endorsement to go through back channels, you want it to be a public process as much as everything to be a public process. And that would help be good for the union and be good for just campaigns in general. And I do worry that the party apparatus and the union apparatus at the upper levels are working together in a way that alienates the people and the rank and file of the membership. And that's not good for democracy. And it's not good for your campaign, but mostly it's not good for democracy.
And there's a common trend here, right, Rami? The corporations or individuals with technical expertise don't want to support you because they don't want to be the bad books. You have individuals who don't want to be in the bad books. Now you have all of this who don't want to be in the bad books. So it's a common threat there.
Yeah. So we need to get rid of the power of the bad book, right?
Yes,
so
sir.
like when that's something that's engineered,
Yes.
you should be able to work for a candidate who you want to work for without threatening your after work, without it threatening your mortgage, right? And that's literally, make no mistake. I would spend a decade in Chicago. That's what your state senator was telling the political operatives. Like, you work for Junaid, like you won't get a job in future Democratic politics, and that's a huge problem.
Yes.
And that's a huge problem for for our democracy, and that's an inter-party problem. So the problem is going to be Democrats. So I'm very interested if and when and how Representative Krishnamurti decides not to share a stage with you, because that's going to be a problem for democracy that we need to actually address, because you need to be on the same stage. You need to force the debate, and you need to actually be you need to be fielding questions from him and then asking questions of him, and then let the people decide. And if that's not the case, then we have a sham democracy, not a real democracy.
In this race, I am really hoping that there will be a debate, because in 2020, yeah. Yeah, I and Raja Krishnamurti, because in 2020, Raja Krishnamurti did debate the other two candidates. It was, but again, keep in mind, those were, just candidates who did not have campaign teams and everything. But let's see what comes about. To your earlier point, Arami, about the statement of, if you work for Junaid, you won't get a job. I have to call out the people who are actually coming out in support, who are not cheering for this. And what we're hearing is that's not true. What that statement of, you won't get a job, is not going to be true, especially if if you're following Chicago politics, at the indictment of Madigan fairly recently. We're hoping this is a catalyst for change, and we're hoping we're part of that catalyst for change in this Chicago area politics, as well as nationwide. And I am seeing a lot more positives coming out, people stepping up to support us. So yes, there are negatives, but I cannot but appreciate the positives that are coming out from individuals as well as a lot of elected officials.
Yeah, I mean, we got to get you on radio. We got to get you on Chicago tonight. We got to you have to be able to make your message, and that costs, right? So, by the way, if you like anything Junaid's saying, go ahead and go to your website. I assume is your name, or what's your website?
Junaid for Congress.com. It's JUNAID for Congress.com. And if you're living anywhere else in the nation other than Chicago area, please, we need your help for phone banking, text banking, a little bit of contributions here and there, obviously. And if you live in the Chicago area, we need you physically here. I need 2 hours, 3 hours, whatever you can do a week. That would be huge, I think, for the movement to progress and be successful at it. It's going to have to be the grassroots, and that's one ask I would have here, Rami, for the listeners.
So a lot of people like to talk about climate change. I'm not one of them. So I'm going to talk about Black people. So what we're going to Black people in these United States are not going to be made whole with anything short of reparations. There needs to be an acknowledgement that the state degraded an entire people, and that's not going to magically go away. And especially now when you add inflation and property values. Pretty much, if you grew up in public housing in the United States right now, your grandkids are going to be in public housing. Because even my little house right now has like doubled. And what does that mean for Black people in the United States? That means that, like, since we've been made poor by the United States, we will continue to be poor by the United States outside of a transformation, a reconstruction of the United States that actually centers, American descendants of slaves. And so I want to know your opinion about reparations for American descendants of slaves.
Rami, first and foremost, as an American Muslim living in the past, post 9/11 era, and facing, one of my good friends told me this, and I'll just share it on the open radio here. He's a good friend of mine, right? And he goes, Junaid, you guys are the new blacks of America, because you're taking some heat away from us, but
you still get a little bit nervous when you fly, like this is gonna be a little.
But Rami, let me tell you a little bit. So here's what I wanted to share here, right? For me, to fight for that, to that social justice. I've been standing shoulder to shoulder with my Black friends, Black brothers and sisters. And I tell you one thing, I, as a son of an immigrant myself, I appreciate the fact that we are standing on the sacrifices made by the Black people over a century, over 2 centuries. We are standing on their shoulders, the struggle of their shoulders. I'm proud to admit that we are beneficiaries of that struggle in this nation. And I am very proud to say that I have been standing, and I will continue to stand for the social justice for each and every American, especially the Blacks who have suffered so much that I cannot comprehend. I just can't. I mean, I can sympathize, but honestly, I'm not a Black man. I don't see what you go through. I saw a fraction of that in the last 21 years post 9/11, but what you go through for centuries, I just can't comprehend that. I will not claim to comprehend that, but I will, appreciate that. But now, about your question, I think anything that we do here needs to put in a system, find a solution wherein we are dealing and putting to bed the systemic inequalities that we have built over centuries. Any sort of reparations that are provided, is that going to give a temporary solution? Is it just a political statement? Is it just fill up the blank that, okay, now we did it, put a check mark and move on? What I am saying is anything that we do need to get us across the systemic inequalities that we have built in this nation.
Yeah, we're going to build institutions. It's not just going to be cash reparations, although there will be a check. It'll also be institutional endowments.
Yes.
Institutional endowments, because institutions don't die like people do, and institutions reproduce. So, like, if it's just cash, but we leave all the institutions in place, it'll just be like Bezos will get that money.
Yeah, exactly. Right. And that's
so, like, you need to actually.
You need to actually build. That's where we need a system that is put in place, that the problem that we created over a couple of centuries, now the next 2 decades, we completely bring our generations out of it. That's what I'd be supportive of.
Okay, good. So so in terms of building actual institutions, not just writing a check.
Although exactly. Yeah.
Right. We have to actually fund institutions and
I'll say this, right? Barack Obama became the president of the United States of America. That is huge. But did the situation of the Blacks in America change? That's all I'm talking about. I'm talking about that's a great thing. I'm very proud of it, the accomplishment that was made, but a lot more has to be done. Where, children, just because they're living in some zip code, they're not getting the education the others are. All of those things. I mean, you mentioned it in a much better way. Yeah.
All right, well, so I worked for Obama for a minute in 2007, and I'll tell you, that guy is not one of the good guys, insofar as he promised white people that all you have to do is elect me. You don't even have to elect other Democrats. You just elect. so many Democrats lost their seats over during Obama's reign that like I do not actually respect him that much as a politician. He was very good at getting himself elected, but he was very also good at confusing the nation so much that they elected Trump after him. So there's a way in which part of your job as a candidate is not only to enact policies, although it's a very important part of your job, but also to clarify the fight and not confuse the fight. And I think Barack Obama like confused the fight in a way that I do not want people to emulate. And so like even with your campaign, even if you don't win, you need to clarify the fight so that people coming after you or you in 2 years, like it's not the first time people will hear these arguments.
Yes, 100%.
So you have to create the citizenry that will then elect you.
Yes.
Because the one that the Democratic Party, as it stands, creates is cool with Krishnamurti. They're also cool with only a few people having health care and only a certain people having jobs and you know some people having lead water and black people being historically like degraded for generations. So like what are you going to do to create the electorate that will elect you and then support you?
Yeah, and this goes back to my activist background, right? My activist community. I think what needs to happen here is we have to extend that base, get that message out to an everyday citizen that look, you got to pay a little bit more attention. In our district, the population is 757,000. In the last non-presidential primary, only 44,000 people actually came out and voted. The people who actually need to participate, who are at a disadvantage, are not coming out and participating in this democracy. And I think that's one thing we're working hard to get the message out, to first, get some people registered to vote. We are working with people who are already registered to vote, who only vote in the presidential cycles. Get the message out. Like, look, if you don't speak, you're going to be represented by someone who is never going to stand up for you. And that's how we are expanding the citizenship, concept within the people within the district, and we just it's a lot of hard work to do. And to your earlier point, not having access to mass media, and because we're not talking about something very sexy that people are going to jump on it and listen, you're talking about hardcore fundamental values here. We just have to do it one person at a time at the grassroots level, and that we're doing. We've been doing for the last year and a half at a very, very aggressive level. We keep doing it, and come June 28th, which is the day of our primary, we will hopefully have enough people who will show up.
June 28th is not that long.
Yes, sir.
June 28th, that is the day of your primary. You need all right, so get a message to Krishnamurti about these debates. And I think he's going to deck them. I think he's going to duck them or do one led by the local Democratic Party that's going to be completely in his tank. So get the message out, have him duck the debate, because that's the issue. That's it. Because without these processes, you don't have a chance. You need to be on stage or at least sharing a Zoom screen with him, fielding questions and letting the people decide. And there needs to be a few of them. There needs to not just be one. We need to force the debate. So I'm going to cut a section of this interview about forcing the debate. And I just want to start this with the question: why should we force the debate?
We should force the debate because that's the only way people will be able to find out who the candidates are, what the candidates stand for, what the candidates' message is, not biased information that they get from multiple different sources. They can look into the eyes of the candidate and ask the questions, or if it's a Zoom screen, and basically get the questions answered in no deceptive terms, in being very honest and straight, direct questions and direct answers.
Good. Thank you. Yeah, because if you don't know the reason why people support what they support, you don't really know what they support, because you don't know what they're going to compromise and what they're going to negotiate. So to know what someone thinks, you need the follow-up question about why they think it. And if we want to move beyond more superficial politics to more robust democracy, we need candidates to have access to other candidates, and candidates to have access to the media.
Yep.
And so, all right. So, parting shot, go ahead and tell my people what you want them to know.
We in the Illinois 8th District are standing to represent the people of the 8th District. We are not standing to represent the corporations that funnel in millions of dollars into the American political system. We want you to know that we are here. We have been fighting. I have been fighting as an activist in this district for decades now, and we are now changing that activism to representation. We are here to actually bring about policies that do not suck, bring about policies that are good for the people. And we are going against an incumbent who has done absolutely nothing for the people of the district. He has been standing up very strongly for his corporate donors. Bottom line is, representation for the people needs to be in Congress in Illinois' 8th district.
I believe so. But you have to understand that the Democratic Party doesn't care how many people vote as long as they get their guy in.
Yes.
Yes. If 5,000 people vote out of the 750,000, if 5,000 of them vote, but 3,000 of them are Democrats, the party's like, ooh.
Yes, you're right. And unfortunately, that is something, an attitude back in the day, I was thinking that's a Republican attitude. It's very disappointing to see people from our own party, doing exactly the same thing.
All right. So what happens when the problem is Democrats? And we need to actually think about that. And as a Democrat, I think it's responsible for us to actually think about it. Right. So,
yeah. And the way we are addressing that problem is by challenging the incumbent and bringing him down and bringing the people's voice to Congress. That's how we are dealing with it. If there are better options, well, happy to talk about it. But I think the most realistic, achievable option was to primary him and get the people's voice to Congress.
Yes, and I want to get all of his excuses about why he won't share a Zoom screen with you 3 times. That. I mean, that's important, because we need to figure out why good candidates and good policies get aborted. They get conceived. They're the nation is rational enough to conceive them and then also distorted enough to abort them. And we need to actually figure out where that happens. So the moment your candidacy becomes effectively targeted by the party is that's the moment I want to capture. I want Krishnamurthy to give an excuse about why he won't sit down and share a Zoom screen with you, or why he'll only do it once instead of 3 times. Because, it's a job interview. So there should be an assessment every 2 years. That's not too much to ask.
True.
All right. Well, thank you for your time.
Thank you, Rami. I appreciate the time.
Good. And I will see you on the other side.
All right. Thanks. Take care. Goodbye.